The American Southwest Desert is a land of stark beauty and harsh extremes, where the sun scorches the earth by day and the cold bites deep at night. It is a place where life clings tenaciously to the rocks and sand, and where secrets can lie hidden for years, even decades. On one such night, as a severe thunderstorm rolled through the desolate landscape, the desert was about to reveal some of its darkest secrets. Maria Sanchez had been living in the small town of Arroyo for most of her life. She loved the desert, the vast, open spaces, and the way the light played off the rocks and sand. But tonight, there was a sense of unease in the air. The weather forecast had predicted a severe thunderstorm, a rarity in this arid region. As Maria sat on her porch, she could see the storm clouds gathering on the horizon, dark and menacing. The wind picked up, swirling dust and debris around her. She shivered, not from the cold, but from a deep-seated sense of foreboding. Little did she know, the storm would bring more than just rain and lightning. The first raindrops hit the ground with a hiss, quickly followed by a deluge. Lightning split the sky, illuminating the desert in brief, blinding flashes. Thunder rumbled, echoing off the distant hills like the growl of some ancient beast. The rain came down in torrents, turning dry riverbeds into raging torrents and carving new channels through the sand. Maria watched in awe as the storm unleashed its fury, the wind howling like a banshee. She had never seen anything like it. As the storm raged, the water began to uncover things that had long been buried. Bones, tattered clothing, and other remnants of a hidden past were washed into the open, revealing the grisly evidence of a killer's handiwork. For years, an unknown serial killer had used the desolate vastness of the desert as their dumping ground. The remote location, far from prying eyes, had provided the perfect cover for their gruesome activities. Bodies were buried in shallow graves, hidden among the rocks and scrub, left to be forgotten by time and nature. The killer had been careful, leaving little evidence behind. But the storm, with its relentless rain and powerful winds, was undoing their work. The desert, it seemed, was ready to give up its secrets. The next morning, as the storm moved on and the sun rose over the desert, Maria ventured out to survey the damage. The landscape had been transformed, rivers of mud and debris covered the ground, and the air was filled with the scent of wet earth. As she walked, something caught her eye. At first, she thought it was just another piece of debris, but as she got closer, she realized it was a human skull, half buried in the mud. Her heart pounded in her chest as she knelt to examine it, and she could see more bones scattered nearby. Maria's mind raced. Who could these bones belong to? How long had they been here? And who had put them there? She knew she had to contact the authorities. Sheriff Tom Walker was a no-nonsense lawman with over 20 years of experience. He had seen his fair share of crime, but nothing could have prepared him for the discovery Maria had made. As he and his deputies arrived at the scene, they quickly realized they were dealing with more than just a single body. The storm had unearthed a virtual graveyard. Bones and other evidence lay scattered across a wide area, and it was clear that this was the work of a serial killer. The sheriff called in forensic experts and additional manpower to help with the investigation. As they began to piece together the evidence, a chilling picture emerged. The bodies were those of men and women, some of whom had been reported missing years ago. The killer had been active for a long time, using the desert as their personal dumping ground. The forensic team worked tirelessly, sifting through the mud and debris, cataloging the remains, and searching for any clues that might lead them to the killer. It was a painstaking process, but slowly, they began to make progress. Dental records and DNA analysis helped identify some of the victims, providing crucial information about their lives and how they had ended up in the desert. The team also found evidence of the killer's methods, signs of strangulation, blunt force trauma, and other forms of violence. As the investigation continued, a pattern began to emerge. The victims had been lured to the desert, possibly under false pretenses, and then murdered. The killer had been meticulous, leaving little evidence behind, but the storm had disrupted their carefully laid plans. News of the discovery spread quickly, attracting the attention of the media. Reporters and camera crews descended on the small town of Arroyo, eager to cover the story. The quiet desert community was thrust into the national spotlight, and speculation ran rampant. Who was the killer? How had they managed to evade capture for so long? And were they still active? These questions and more dominated the headlines, fueling a sense of fear and curiosity. Maria, who had unwittingly become a key figure in the case, found herself at the center of the media storm. She struggled to cope with the sudden attention, but she was determined to help the authorities in any way she could. As the investigation progressed, the sheriff's office received a break in the case. A tip led them to a remote cabin in the desert, where they found evidence linking it to the killer. Inside, they discovered a cache of weapons, photographs of the victims, and other incriminating items. The cabin's owner, a drifter named Carl Jenkins, became the prime suspect. He had a history of violence and had been living off the grid for years, making him difficult to track. The authorities launched a manhunt, scouring the desert for any sign of Jenkins. As the net closed in, the community held its breath, hoping for a resolution to the nightmare that had haunted them for so long. It was a moonless night when the sheriff and his deputies finally cornered Jenkins in an abandoned mine. Armed and dangerous, he was not going to go down without a fight. The standoff was tense, with both sides exchanging gunfire in the darkness. Sheriff Walker, determined to bring Jenkins to justice, carefully maneuvered through the mine's tunnels. The air was thick with dust and tension as he closed in on the killer. In the final confrontation, Jenkins lunged at the sheriff with a knife, but Walker was quicker, subduing him with a well-placed shot. With Jenkins in custody, the authorities could finally breathe a sigh of relief. The man responsible for the horrors in the desert had been caught, and justice would be served. The capture of Carl Jenkins brought a sense of closure to the community of Arroyo. The media frenzy died down, and the town began to return to normal. But the scars of the past would not be easily forgotten. The victims' families, who had endured years of uncertainty and grief, could finally begin to heal. The remains of their loved ones were laid to rest, and memorials were held to honor their memories. Maria, who had played a pivotal role in uncovering the truth, was hailed as a hero. She struggled with the weight of what she had discovered, but she found solace in knowing that she had helped bring an end to the nightmare. The desert is a place of mystery and danger, where the past can remain hidden for years, even decades. But on that stormy night, the desert gave up some of its darkest secrets, revealing the horrors that had been buried beneath its sands. As the sun sets over the American Southwest, casting long shadows across the landscape, one cannot help but wonder what other secrets lie hidden in the vast, desolate expanse. The desert, with its stark beauty and harsh extremes, is a place where life clings tenaciously to the rocks and sand, and where the past can never truly be forgotten. And so, the legend of the storm and the bodies it uncovered becomes part of the desert's lore, a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk just beneath the surface. The desert holds many secrets, and on that fateful night, it revealed one of its darkest tales. But who knows what other mysteries lie waiting to be discovered, buried beneath the sands of time.